Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Deborah and Lucas. She is an author and creative coach, and we'll learn from her powerful journey of determination from clay artist to memoirist and how to navigate the vulnerability of telling your story. We'll discover how to engage your whole creative self, find your flow, and turn your personal experiences into a source of empowerment and purpose. Welcome to the show, Deborah.
Thank you, KJ. I'm happy to be here.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show, Deborah. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk about. Right now, we learn about your story, about moving at so many places, moving 50 times in 45 years. And we'll talk about how one can unlock their creative voice and resilience. We'll talk about all that. But before that, let's understand a bit about your journey, your background, your story, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
Well, I am an artist and an author, and I'm a very unlikely author because I didn't have books in my house as a kid, and I have some struggle with my eyes that make it difficult for me to read. But I was so determined to tell my story, and in this case, the story of my brother and my close relationship with him. And so I just kept pushing through and looking for the best teachers to help me figure out how to do it the best.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, what is it that you are trying to tell the world, Deborah?
I'm telling them not to give up on their dreams, that if they persevere and problem solve, that they can overcome just about anything. And my list is a pretty long list of things to overcome. And part of my dream is, well, finding home, because I moved so much as a kid, but finding home where I could have my art and my horses. And I have horses in the backyard. And that's really an important part of my story because not only did they help me heal, but I learned life lessons from them that I think are applicable to just about anybody. You don't have to have horses in your life. You don't have to even love horses, but you can learn from some of their characteristics of being grounded, of being honest. They're beautiful, powerful, sensual, living, loving, playful, loyal, and they can heal us emotional, physical, and spiritually. And that's really evident in all of the programs nowadays with people and horses with healing. So, yeah, they're pretty amazing animals.
Absolutely. So, you talk about, that anyone can do whatever they want to. You talk about perseverance, and we'll learn about where did you get all this perseverance that you want people to learn from? Where did you get it? Were you born with your perseverance, or you learned it along the way, Deborah? So that people can also learn. If they are not born with it, then they can learn along the way. If there is anything from both ends, they can learn from you.
Well, I didn't get a lot of stability from my parents, but I did get my passion and my curiosity. And I think that that is what fuels my perseverance, plus a certain stubbornness. I've been called a dog with a bone. So once I get my teeth into something, I'm not going to let it go. I'm going to figure out a way to make it happen. And I think that stubbornness is a big part of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, how do people find their perseverance in their life? Do they have to go through difficult times? Do they have to get it from their parents? Do they have to move places like you 50 times in 45 years? Do they have to get
No.
a horse or, several German Shepherd and several cats? Help us understand how can they look inward to find this perseverance? Does everyone has this perseverance, or is it that we will find it at our own time in our life?
I think it's within themselves. And it does start with a passion. In other words, you've got something that you want to accomplish. And figuring that out is sometimes half the battle. What is it that you want? And so that part of the process is just exploring, just trying on everything, and to not have judgment about how things turn out. If it doesn't turn out, it doesn't turn out. Move on to the next. But once you find something that you're passionate about, I think it's important to journal, really, to write about your feelings and why that's important, and to get it down on paper. And even paper and pen is even much better than a computer because it connects to a certain part in our brain. And it's that's a great way of doing it. But the next thing I would suggest is find your teachers. Find people, whether it's in books, on Zoom, at a college or a local community center, where you can learn from people. And then I would say find your community, because just finding other writers, other people that are interested in writing, for me, is what helped me get through this. And I've, over the last 17 years of writing this, and a few other books in between, but really to the point of this being finished so that I felt comfortable publishing it, I had the support of a huge community in all different directions. And so I think community is really huge.
Absolutely. So you talk about, that you are a fierce believer in dreams.
Yes.
How did you know what your dream is when you moved so many times? How do people think about their dreams? You also talked about that things turn out well, if not, move on something next. So should
Right.
the dreams also move like that, or there is dreams are constant, you continue to move, but you focus on those dreams? How do I also become a fierce believer in my dream and not leave it to whims and fancies of chances?
I think it's something that is a deep knowing within yourself. When I discovered my love of horses, when I was like 4 years old, and we were driving from Michigan down to Kentucky to visit a friend of Mom's, and in the distance I saw these horses, these mares and foals, and I'd never really seen a horse, like in real life, and I couldn't get my dad to stop. But just that vision of seeing all those horses in their different paddocks divided by trees and white fences, it stuck with me. And so from there, I started like doing these little contests on the back of matchbooks. I don't know if anybody remembers those, that you could win a racehorse, right? And I just, I would find someplace a lady that had horses, and I would go and work for her, and just to be around them and pet them and learn anything about them. And so that was kind of the beginning of it. And it just kind of built from there. And I just kept, I fractured my back off of a stranger's horse when I was in high school. And all I could do is hardly wait to get back on a horse again. So maybe a little craziness is good too when it comes to horses. But it's just, don't let anybody dampen down your dreams. Believe that anything is possible.
Absolutely. And change in life means, how do you adapt to change? You have a MFA in ceramics from UCLA, and then you
Right.
moved to writing memoirs. How
Right.
how do people who are trained for one thing, they dream of that, they get trained for this, and they move on to something else? Is it change? Is it destiny? How do they, or understand this transition, or is it love for what they have discovered, all of a sudden, passion? Or people find it very confusing. People are afraid of change, and when they
Yeah.
have trained for, say, so many years for something, when they move on to something else, they are very uncertain. Help us understand from your point of view, so that they also find something for themselves, the audience finds something from themselves through your wisdom.
So much of it is through circumstance. And I'm a real believer in synchronicity. I believe that things happen or come to my attention for a reason, and I tend to trust that, or at least test it out. And for me, I was in a circumstance after finishing grad school where I was living in a place where I couldn't get a job teaching. And it's really hard to make your living as an artist when you're first starting out without some sort of support like teaching. And with clay, you need the studio support. So, and I'd also had a recent injury, say circumstance, another horse injury, where I ended up getting into this healing technique called Heller work because it helped heal me from way back when I was in high school, all of the years of pain that I had. And so learning that healing technique, I started doing it on horses. And then that became a business. And that was wonderful until circumstance led to where my husband had to move to another state and we couldn't sell our house, and so I just kind of left it all behind, but I brought the horses, and then another move a year later, and then I had circumstances of all the rest of my family passing. So again, circumstances, but because of losing my family, it made me realize how valuable their stories were to me and how other people might benefit from them. And so I wanted to share those stories. I'm kind of the keeper of my family's stories. And so that's when I decided I'm going to figure out a way to tell this story. And again, I'm the unlikely writer, but I just started asking friends, going to local colleges, and just reading books, to everything I could to learn it. And I have to tell you, I thought it was going to be cheaper to write a book than it was to do art. And I was so wrong. You have to invest in your dreams. And so sometimes you have to do it a little at a time. But I made that investment of time and attention and finances, and over time I finally had the confidence to believe that yes, my book is ready, but I wanted to control it myself because I'm the artist, right? So I did all the interior design, and I did the cover myself from my own artwork and a photograph of mine off my porch, and then I published it myself. So it's a little harder to do that because there's so many books published. So I appreciate this opportunity to tell people about it, to get the word out.
Absolutely. Let's talk about it. It's a wonderful title, if I understand. Dance while the fire burns. Is that
right?
Is that correct, Deborah?
Yes, that's correct. You want
So
to know where
dance
that
while
comes from?
Yeah, I want to understand where it comes from. And just before the show, you were talking about the sunrise behind you, I guess. So, very close connection between the sunrise, that fire,
Yes.
that brings light to the world, and your book, your memoir talks about dance while the fire burns. Tell us, where did you get this title from? What does it mean? What does it mean for you? What does it can mean for everyone else?
Well, it kind of has a dual meaning. The metaphorical meaning is about how we danced through the troubles of our lives, but we literally actually danced in our living rooms. There was a lot of laughter in my family, even though there was a lot of upheaval. And so my brothers and I would start dancing, and then my dad and mom would join us in this little living room and dancing. And there were other times where I would be dancing with my brother Chuck. This book is focused around my relationship with him, as well as my kind of coming into my own, finding the confidence, being the little sister, the baby sister, and finding the confidence to be his caretaker, because he got sick, and I dropped everything in my life and went to where he was with my husband, and I didn't have horses then, and I needed to be strong enough and to be kind of empowered enough to be his caretaker when he died of AIDS. And so the actual title came from when he was being cremated. It was in a time when nobody knew if you'd get the right ashes of people. So I went to the crematorium and I watched him go in, and I came back and watched him come out, right? And the technician and I were the only people in this huge place. And he says, well, I've got some work to do on this, so to prepare it for you. And so, can I put some music on? And I went, sure, why not? And the music was the music I had danced with my brother. It was back in the 80s and 70s and 80s music. And so I danced while the fires in the back were burning in the crematorium, communing with my brother, connecting with my brother. And so that's when I wrote that chapter, that the title came to me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Tell us a bit more about the book. What more have you got? Is it only that story or other stories too in your memoir?
Well, it's a story of me having a real unstable childhood and some real disappointments. I mean, it starts off in Australia, where my dad got a transfer for a couple of years and he got me a horse. But a few months later, things kind of went bad for him and we were sent home and I lost my horse. And that was heartbreaking. And so then I found a horse in high school back in the States, and it was kind of sold from under me again. So I went and rode a stranger's horse, and that's when I got injured. And so there's stories like that where there's this positives that come out of difficult times. When I did my MFA for my UCLA, at UCLA, it's a ceramic room covered in a circular room that I built, covered in ceramic tiles, based on books called Goddesses in Every Woman, which is kind of an archetype, understanding and empowering yourself, and also Black Elk Speaks, which is Native American traditions. And so I had these like 8-foot tall rearing horses, right, and these goddess figures in this circle, and they were in high relief tiles. And it's all ready, I'm ready to go. And we come in for the opening and they drag me out of the crowd and say, we got a problem. One of the panels had collapsed and shattered. And I was like heartbroken. But then people were still allowed to come in and look, they dragged me in and they said, you did this on purpose, right? And I went, yeah. And she says, well, it's the horse of death and transformation. It's fabulous. It's like a dig, site for it. And so the positives, learning from people, when you think that you're just so downtrodden, that uplift you. Yeah, that's my life story.
Absolutely. Your life story also consists of, moving 50 times in 45 years. Amidst all these things, you finally call this 20 acres with your husband, that you call it as a home. 45, so many movements, all those years. How did you find your home in those, moving times? Where did you ever find a home before that? Help us understand.
I had a home that I thought that it was home, but we lost it. And again, circumstances. But when we moved to this house where we're living now, we've lived here for 30 years. And it was a mess. I mean, there was like a junkyard out there that we had to clean up for the horses. And the house was like half renovated, half falling apart. And over the 30 years, we've worked really hard to build it into like this sanctuary. But when I came down that lane in the middle of the winter and to look at the house, because the real estate person was busy, I saw that house and I knew it's where I lived. I belong here. And I trusted those feelings as soon as I had them. And so I fought tooth and nail to stay here. I wouldn't let my husband change jobs unless it would allow us to stay here. So again,
Absolutely.
Just persevering.
Persevering. What about peace? Where do you find peace? Means I want to understand that all those movements can sometimes, not only in terms of changing, people go through a lot of feelings. Even if in one place they go through so many feelings that peace is lost. Even in the most ideal places, peace is lost. Do they go searching out for that home and peace outside, or do they find it internally? How did you find peace in your life amidst all those movements and then finding peace your home right now? I want to understand it from that point of view because there is so much of chaos now. Not only external, even on your phones, they don't leave you alone. There is, social media chaos, digital chaos, chaos everywhere. Where do you find peace amidst all this chaos?
It comes back to two things. One is that anybody can do is seeing the world through the eye of an artist. And what it is it's like really focusing on just like a leaf on the ground and seeing the shadows and the shapes and the edges and the form and appreciating the immense beauty that we get from nature in the smallest thing. Snowflakes, or the way the snow drifts, or the way that ice melts and causes these creative forms. And the other way is from my horses and through breathing. And you ever blown into a nose of a horse and then inhale their air back? It's just amazing. And a horse of mine had abscess in his hoof, and we had to stand in a bucket of Epsom salts, warm water, and for 30 minutes. Can you imagine getting a horse to stand in a bucket of water for 30 minutes? And I just stood really close to him, and I just breathed with him. And I got more out of that than he did. So breathing, just breathing. And, the beauty of a sunset. I mean, you can have the most horrible day, but if you see a sunset or a sunrise, it just takes all the rest away. You just melt into that moment of beauty and peace.
Absolutely, absolutely. Tell us a bit about your creative journey. What would you like to tell people about creativity, about potential, about their writing part? You are a book coach now. So, what is it that
Yes.
you teach people? What is it that they come to you for?
For the book coaching or for the art? I can do both. For the art, I want to tell everybody I can't draw. I still can't draw. I have to really practice it. But I went into clay because I'm more kinesthetic than visual. But I do sketch and draw. I just keep my hand in it. And anybody can do art. Anybody, everybody is an artist. You just have to take away the judgment and let your kid out to play and just play. And that is creating art. It doesn't matter whether it's mud or fancy oil paints or whatever. That is art. I do it in fabric too. I do art quilts. So that's one way. In terms of the writing, again, I'm an unlikely writer, but there's ways to overcome. There's ways to work around. If you really want to do it, and you just have to find somebody that helps you believe and just helps you keep at it. Even if it's, I have a group that I coach, memoir writers, and I say 10 minutes a day. Anybody can find 10 minutes a day to scribble down a few words. And I can give you the prompts if you need help. In book coaching, that's a one-on-one relationship where somebody's got a bigger project that they want to do or have done and gotten stuck on. And we coach them through it in terms of, yes, it's about writing, but it's more about having a sense of what the story is. Do you know what you want to say up to people about your story, what it will communicate, how that will benefit them? And then how do you hang that on a structure so that you can take that in? And then it's accountability to make sure that they just keep on it, keep at it. And it's emotional support. We all have tough days and we all get stuck and we all get frustrated and want to pull out our hair. But you go through that, you breathe through it, and then you just keep going. You go for a walk, work in the garden, whatever, and then you just keep writing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Keep writing. What is it that you seek for yourself now? It's been a, lot of things, life with too many things, great things, doing great things, and fire still burning. Help us understand, what is it that you seek for yourself now?
Well, a couple of things. One is I'm working on a book that is called Standing with Horses, and it's a combination of essays and poems with my watercolors of my horses. And there's each of my horses a story, right? And so I'm working on publishing that next year, and so I'm really excited about that. And I've got like 2 other books that are written that need to be edited, so I'm going to try and get those out. So I just have lots of stories that I want to tell, and I want to continue doing my art. The other thing is healing. I've got a leg problem, and so I'm persevering through the medical world and to find a way so that I can be more mobile again and get out and talk to people and teach people and enjoy people. So, but until then, Zoom is great.
Absolutely, absolutely. Zoom is great. God is great, and God will grant you all your wishes. I'm
Thank
sure,
you.
Deborah, so that you can connect with whoever you want to at any point in time, at any place that you desire. That should happen. That will happen. That's why I said God is great. There is so much
Yes,
to
God is
learn.
great.
There is so much to learn from you about life, about living, about writing, about so many other things, about animals that you talk about, especially horses. So a lot of people who would want to connect with you to know about life, to get your coaching as a book coach, and also to learn from your books and the upcoming books that you have planned. What's the best way for them to do so?
My website, which is my name, DeborahAnnLucas.com. And there's contact forms in there, and there's a form there you can get a monthly newsletter. And if you want to hear more from me or read things right away, you can go to my Substack page, which is DeborahAnnLucas.substack.com.
Wonderful.
And I'm all
With
over
this,
social media too.
absolutely, absolutely. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.